The starting period of my MBA journey was a bit of a train wreck. The high of letting it finally sink in that I made it into that school was followed quite quickly by the realization that I wasn't keeping up. I hadn't figured out how to socialize without an agenda. I hit rock bottom probably 2.5 months in, feeling like I made a mistake, that I wasn't meant to be there, and that I was truly alone. What came from that was probably the biggest learning of that entire journey, and the one thing I'd approach differently if I was to do it all over again. I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with academic institutions. I love learning and being challenged with stuff that I get really into and then I do well. The mistake I made, or would make, even during my undergrad, is that I would see a given subject or challenge through a lens of, is this directly relevant to me? And if it's not, I'd have a tad bit less enthusiasm with how I would approach that subject. Now, I wasn't asking the right questions in the first instant. What is it that I want to get out of this? And how do I overcome hurdles or challenges that pose as gravity problems? Gravity problems being problems that you can't change. You can't suspend gravity. You work around it by building something that keeps you suspended in air. The challenge should not have been, can I focus on all these different terms and formulas and stuff to memorize, but how do I see myself using this in real life? What's a likely scenario? And then play through it. I'll never be an accountant, but I want to be able to read a balance sheet for any company I invest in, where I get excited about somebody's product or service offering. Because you are in a formative state every time you expose your neurons to a disruptive way of thinking, you very quickly check externally, look to the outside, to the people around you, to benchmark yourself. How am I doing, and how is everyone else doing? And then, surprisingly, it becomes irrelevant how others are doing, because I have identified a higher level purpose definition that is specific to me, my bigger picture. What that also does is it doesn't assume that I know what's important to others or what others are thinking, because that's where benchmarking yourself becomes destructive, when you think you are the same but somehow others are better. So because I was focused on the task in isolation, I had no real motivation to do well in my first 2 months until I was told, you are really not doing well. And then it became about not dropping out, and that reset everything. In fact, I started doing extremely well from that point onwards because I knew I was doing it for myself. By the end of my first 6 months, I had a massive aha moment. I realized that going into the MBA, my fear had been that turning my attention towards all this dry finance, accounting, and statistics stuff, I would lose my creative edge, the emotional energy and rawness with which I would invest myself in pretty much everything, that I would become some stiff MBA shirt, somebody I wouldn't want to be. At that point of that 6-month mark though, I felt more myself than I ever did before. I was the go-to guy for video productions in my class, obviously. I had started to focus on quantitative courses that had a heavy communications component. I had produced INSEAD's cabaret stage show together with 2 of my peers. I had found all the reasons why I needed to be there. And that gave me a purpose that wasn't defined by just a task, by what others were doing, but what was unique about me. And it's easy to sit here today and suggest, find your purpose early on, and also allow it to change, to evolve with you as you progress. It's more than that. There will be things you can't just ignore, gravity, and you work around it. And then it's about seeing the challenges you will be facing in the context of who you are. I had a first glimpse of that as I felt I was getting too close to becoming something I didn't want to be, a dropout. Whether that would have happened or not is another question. I've actually never heard of anybody dropping out of business school. This may have been far off, but it felt a bit too close, and with that, it gave me a sense of identity of who I didn't want to be, and I would execute on that. The me version with foresight would have probably given myself a bit more room and time to come to terms with why I would like to succeed at this. Not benchmarked against others, but against who do I want to be tomorrow, and likes and dislikes with that. And I also talked about the importance of understanding how you work and function in a previous video, link above. Who do I want to be tomorrow versus who I was yesterday? And that's what I would spend more time on, and ideally grow more confident in. I know this is rather convoluted and messy, but basically the expectation should not be because you enter a system where everybody is being treated or initially rated the same, that everybody is in fact the same way. And the way you are and the way you are not is something you ideally start figuring out as you get into your MBA. And do not believe anyone else will know you better than you know yourself and hence make decisions on your behalf. The real reason why you're here is one that only you can come up with. And that will make all the difference.